Hey, sports fans. It's Greg Medford from the Greg Medford Show, coming to you live from Phoenix, Arizona, here at our Shactory. What's going on this crazy Thursday? We've got a treat for you today. You notice over the last couple months, I've been bringing in political candidates. I've been bringing in people that are in state politics, and we've got some U.S. congressmen coming in and a senator. So we've got interesting things afoot, and I've been banging my drums for the last 5 years so hard, as many of you know. We just thought we would kind of put it into a little more formal format and make it a little more informational so that I don't seem like such an unhinged lunatic. And apparently everybody likes it. Today, we've got guests. Kari Lake is here. She was a longtime local Fox affiliate anchor person. Is that right?
Yep.
Did I say that all right? Did I use
Exactly.
all the right terms?
Journalist and news anchor, yeah.
Journalist and news anchor. Kari is with us here. She hung up her microphone to put on her podcast microphone, and she's running for governor here in Arizona. She's currently kind of out in the lead polling-wise. There's a lot to happen in the next year, but the race is afoot. She's got good name recognition, and we're going to see how she grows into her gubernatorial candidacy at this point. You've got Matt Salmon you're running against. You've got Yee. What's her first name?
Kimberly.
It is Kimberly Yee. And then who's
Steve Gaynor.
Gaynor. And is there anybody else?
There's another one, Karen Taylor Robeson.
But those are your three main players that you guys are kind of in the. And then whoever wins this part of the process, this primary is going to be going probably up against Katie Hobbs, is my guess, right?
It's looking like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what could happen.
Unless the Almighty strikes her wicked witch of the West ass down with a lightning bolt. That's not advocated by Kari. That's by me.
We'll see what happens if we get a better investigation of kind of what went wrong in our election. Anything could happen.
Yeah, no kidding. So, I guess I wanted to jump in a little bit. Let's get right into it. I'm going to put my spectacles on. I don't know how you do
Reading
anything
glasses?
without glasses. Yeah.
I need them. I mean, I do have them, but I'm not to the point where it's critical that I have them on. I can still kind of pull my arm back like this and read things.
When I was flying with guys, we'd be in formation, headed out, and we're engaging guys on the horizon that we know are coming our way. I could see aircraft 5 minutes before everybody. I had 2013 vision, and then. Oh, Greg, you can't see them possibly. Like, lead, you can't see them. I'm like, yeah, 2 o'clock, 5,000 feet up.
Wow.
No way. I'm like, yeah, I could see them. And then they'd show up. Like, how did you see them? Now, I can't read my phone. And it happened in like a 3-week period.
Exactly.
Press POP, boom. And I was like, oh, I can't
My
see
husband's the
anymore.
same way. He has always had great vision. He kind of laughed at me that I always needed glasses, and now he can't see anything up close. But just in the last, really since I started running, I've started to need my reading glasses more, which I'm not a fan of.
All right, there you go. When you're running for office, not jogging, you're going to need your glasses more. Let's jump into it. Give us a quick 30-second bio, where you grew up, went to college, that kind of stuff.
I grew up in Iowa, pretty much born and raised there. I was the youngest of 9.
Where in Iowa?
The Quad Cities area, which is along the Mississippi River.
Okay.
So technically I was born in Illinois. The Quad Cities is a couple cities on the Iowa side, a couple cities on the other side of the river. So my mom drove across the river to have me in the hospital and then came back.
So you're kind of an anchor baby?
Yeah, exactly. I'm an Iowa anchor baby, exactly.
Okay. All right.
And 8 girls, 1 boy. And I'm the youngest. I know.
Where was the boy in the lineup?
He's right in the middle. 4 girls on either side. We grew up in a small house. I don't know how he ever got
I
to
call
use
that
the
hope and love. Was there really 8 girls and
Everyone
1
always
boy?
assumes that the boy
was
was the
last.
youngest. Like, we really want to have a boy.
Yeah.
No, I was the last one.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he turned out pretty good. He's been molded by 8 girls. So
That's fantastic.
My mom was a nurse. My dad was a high school history and government teacher.
Oh,
back
so
in
you
the
must
good
have
old
grown up a
days.
Democrat, huh?
We actually grew up in a very Republican household.
Did you really?
It's interesting because I'm the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
So my oldest sister is 16, 17 years older than me. And when she talks about my dad, she remembers him when he was in his 20s. I was raised by a dad in his 50s and 60s. So
Different
I
character.
had a different character. I loved my older dad, and he was great when he was younger too, but he was a football coach, tough guy, and primarily raised us because my parents got a divorce when I was 7.
Okay.
And my dad got custody of all of us. Well, there were 6 of us at
smokes.
home at the time.
Place
so
in
I
heaven
was
for him.
raised, there is. And God rest his soul, I know he's up there. I wish he were still here, but he would be so alarmed with what's happening in this country.
Yeah.
I think about him all the time. And I don't know if he could survive what's happening.
Well, it's a little spooky, and as the older we get, the more we feel the hopelessness of the modern moment. And I think it's important for us to keep young people around us and keep our oar in the water, so to speak, on the mission of America. Because if we do that, you do feel like there's hope. You feel like there's a chance.
I don't feel hopeless at all.
That's good.
I am so
well, that's
encouraged by what I'm seeing.
That's because you're at the crux of maybe being able to do something. But when you're just a little bit past that, it feels like it's slipping out of your hands, you know?
Well, we're definitely in precarious times.
Yeah, for sure.
So I grew up in Iowa, went to University of Iowa, put myself through college. My dad was a smart guy. I've been working since I was 14. If we wanted shampoo in our house, we had to work to buy it. If we wanted toothpaste, we had, which at the time was really, I didn't like that.
Were you guys Catholic?
My mom was Catholic. My dad was Lutheran.
Okay.
And that's why we have 9 kids. She was a good Catholic. My dad said to me once before he passed away, he was the funniest guy. He never paid for a beer in his life because he was a football coach, and he coached thousands of young men and was beloved by them.
So everywhere he went, there was somebody
Coach, let me come over here, have a beer. And, you know, and it's interesting. I really learned a lot about how he interacted with people. He taught so many people. He helped mold boys into men. He was a great coach. And I still, I almost get choked up every time someone reaches out and says, your dad really changed my life for the better.
Yeah.
He was a great guy, beloved by all.
Very cool.
So, yeah, we worked hard from a very young age. I put myself through college, and I have a great work ethic, a Midwest work ethic.
So you went to school. Did you major in broadcasting or what?
I was initially going to be an elementary school teacher, but I got into those classes and I just was like, I'm not liking this at all.
Okay.
I quit after a couple years and went and worked in the real world. And then I came back to my education. And during that time, I worked real briefly as a radio ad salesperson.
Okay.
And I'd never even thought about TV. My dad didn't let us watch TV except one night a week. And he just thought what was on TV was garbage. And he was right. It's even more garbage now. So I ended up, when I was, took that 2 years off, I lived with my sister, and her husband was a real local news, bug. He watched the news, from morning until evening. And I never really watched the news that much. But when I decided to go back to college and finish my degree,
you went back for journalism and broadcasting?
Yeah, I like the idea of telling people stories and going out and learning about people and finding out what's going on with them. And if there's a news story, I love breaking news. So it was such an exciting career when I got into it in the early 90s. And it wasn't as corrupt as it is now. It always kind of leaned to the left. And I remember first time I registered to vote, it was in 88 when I was 18. I registered as a Republican. I voted for George H.W. Bush.
Yep.
And was really a staunch Republican on a university campus. I remember I had like an anti-Democrat a pin that I wore, and you're just kind of pushing against some of the liberalism that was starting to really seep into the university.
Yeah.
And now it's gone full blown.
I went to school back east, so I went to school in Pennsylvania and Connecticut, and I was actually kicked out of school at one point for making prank phone calls, and it was over political correctness, and that was 30 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I can't believe you would do something like that.
I know, it's so amazing. And there was this tape going around of these guys called the Jerky Boys who were doing these prank phone calls, and they were really funny. And so we were doing phone calls and recording them, and somebody took offense to it. It was
who were you calling? I'm just curious.
I was in a fraternity. I had joined a fraternity in my senior year after I get back from the Gulf, and I'm out of the Marines at this point, and I'm in this fraternity, and I'm a few years older than everybody else, and I kind of been around and done a little bit more than everybody else. And
you're not afraid of anything at that point?
No, at that point I'm like, I don't care about all these hippies. So we start dialing up everyone's like friends and girlfriends and ex-girlfriends, and an ex-girlfriend of one of my fraternity brothers came unglued. Unbeknownst to me, there was a lot of background story between the two of them. We thought it was all in fun, and it was apparently a last straw. And a bunch of things that had gone on, and it was a crazy deal. So I actually got kicked out of school my senior year.
While
I was taking one class and writing a thesis, and I had to go back and do it years later. Well, let's jump into the next thing. And so I've been the political correctness I've just been thumbing my nose at for a long time. What do you think? Talk about just for a moment your transition from broadcast media into politics, because out here in the sticks, or out here in the with the people, we think of them as the two most
disgusting,
awful
True,
pieces of
true.
America. You know, we've got this.
I might be perfectly suited if I could handle and survive one. I can handle but politics is a different kind of corruption.
There's a contract that this republic was built on, and it was built on this balance of powers, the relinquishing of a little bit of our personal power to allow a central authority to kind of help it all work, and a neutral critiquer in the middle, screaming at both sides,
Right.
the press. And we don't have the three anymore.
No.
And I was talking about some constitutional structure with a friend yesterday, and I was saying, you know, this thing worked when it was a three-legged. It was like a milk stool.
Three-legged stool, yeah.
And we've pulled one of the stools now is in absolute collusion with a branch of the government.
That's a great analogy.
And then the
So
stool's
you're
falling.
like this, trying to
Yeah,
sit.
we're trying to right ourselves,
And
right?
we're-
And how do we do that?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what made you, after a few decades in that, decide to jump into politics as quickly as you can so I can jump in.
Well, I left my career. I mean, when Donald Trump came on the scene, I really started to notice how off the wall, crazy people around me were going. I thought when he came down the escalator and started talking, I went, this guy is hitting every single issue that Americans are feeling. Yeah. I was so inspired by it. And I went into work and I heard people talking about, oh, he's racist. And I'm thinking, did I hear the same thing they heard? No, I'm going to listen to it again. No, I thought it was great. And
I fell in love with the country when I heard him. I was already a patriot.
Yeah.
I went off the deep end when I still I get teary eyed talking about him. Look, he does some stuff like a goon. He does some stuff like a New Yorker. Blah blah blah.
He's
blah,
a
blah.
New Yorker.
That's right. I've been
People
around.
want to make him non-New York. It's like that's who he is.
Yeah, I'm like he's from Brooklyn, but he's the only politician who we've ever actually heard say what is actually on his mind and what he wants to do. Everything else is some George Washington University distilled thought
It's going
piece.
through a bunch of filters.
Yeah.
Well,
we actually hear what the guy says.
I'm saying what's on my mind. So you're going to be hearing a lot of that.
All right.
But so the media went crazy with him. And I watched this for 5 years and I'm thinking, I love the guy. I think he's great. But I just watched the unfavorable.
Did you love him in quiet?
Yeah, because as a journalist, you're not supposed to put that out there.
Yeah.
You don't endorse people in that. I loved him in quiet. My husband knew. My kids, they went to rallies and things like that. And I had to sit home. I couldn't go because you just don't do that as a journalist.
I'm going to keep picking at you about this because he's the biggest political capital in the country right now. And everybody, you know, to get his endorsement and to say you like him now, it has more gravitas if people know why. That's why I asked you about it a little bit, okay?
Well, and it's interesting because when he came down that escalator, he touched on things that I felt that Americans had never been talked to about by politicians. And it was because he didn't care about the political elite. I think he knew he was going to stir things up.
Oh my God.
He was just
I don't think he knew how bad it was going to be.
He was a bull that came into a china shop and all of a sudden, like you said, your patriotism grew. My pride for America grew even more. I've always been a very proud American. And to watch the people around me in the media cover him so unfairly, where
It was sick.
they cover these stories that are made up, people who came from his past who just obviously wanted to lie about him, and they covered those and got 2 minutes, and something good he did would get 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was sick. It was sick.
Really sick.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know what? I'm going to stay in here and I'm going to be fair. And I always, and he gave me 2 interviews during his presidency, exclusive interviews. He doesn't do that very often.
All right.
He didn't trust a lot of the media. So I was very fair with him, and it wasn't my job as a journalist to tear him apart. If he did something that needed a critical look, absolutely.
Of course.
But he was doing great stuff. None of that was even being covered. So I ended up getting out of journalism because it ceased to be journalism. It became complete activism. And I think when COVID struck, it was the absolute most criminal job out there. We were not covering COVID and any semblance of fairness.
Yeah.
We were scaring people into their homes, only covering things that were going to isolate people, make them sicker. We didn't cover anything about what you could do to make yourself healthier. There was refusal to cover stories about the treatment, even though people on the inside were trying.
And so I think the press, hunts for sensationalism because of ratings. It's part of the natural marriage of information and ratings, right? And then it was a way to do 2 birds in one stone. It was actually tearing him down to report the negative.
I don't think it's about ratings. I used to think it was, oh, this is sensational. It is about an agenda and propaganda, and there's a narrative.
Is it coming from way on high, or is it permeated?
I believe it's coming from the very top of whoever runs the press.
Okay.
And the reason I know that...
Who runs the press? You were there. I mean, who runs the press? Tops of the
There's like
companies?
yeah. But think about
ABC, NBC, CBS. I mean,
yeah, those people,
okay.
the people who are owned.
And
But
so they
the reason it's
deregulated,
not
they bought all the local affiliates, and then the order just comes
Pretty
from
much.
them. It's not independent anymore.
The reason it's not about ratings is because we're seeing how ratings are cratering right now. They don't care.
And they're doubling down.
They're so worried about the truth getting out that they will watch their ratings crater. And even if it came to the point where they weren't making any money because they want their propaganda, their narrative to continue. That's why they're not covering the election, because they got to keep the narrative going. They've got to keep the propaganda they've been pushing going.
What's the end goal, though? If they're not making money and they're ultimately they own these big corporations, they're responsible to shareholders. They need to show a profit to someone. What I don't understand. This is like, you're in this ecosystem for so long. I don't understand how a group of people who are fundamentally profit-driven capitalists can be killing the country and themselves. They're killing themselves while they do it.
I don't know what's behind that, but all I know is they want to keep this narrative, kind of like the Wizard of Oz. What's behind the?
Don't look behind the curtain.
Yeah, and I don't know. I can't quite figure out what is behind it. But I mean, look at our two senators here. The astronaut, Mark Kelly and Kirsten Sinema, pushing legislation, and this makes my blood boil, to bail out our corrupt media, because their ratings are in the tank.
Right.
They've run it into the ground, and they're pushing legislation. I mean, Mark Kelly must have left his brain up in outer space if he thinks that's going to fly, because I'll be damned, and I know that the rest of concerned, patriotic Americans do not want one small penny of their tax money going to bail out this media that has been so damaging to this country.
Yeah.
And that's why I walked away. I'm like, what they're doing is dividing people, hurting people, and frankly, killing people. When you're keeping information about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, I was trying to get that out. And this disgusting paper that we have in town, the Arizona Repugnant, is writing articles about me. Oh, she's trying to kill people by putting this out about ivermectin. And I hope that guy, and he's a little worm, who wrote that article, and I'm not going to name his name because I don't want to give him any credibility. I hope that he, at some point in his life, looks in the mirror and says, "I was wrong. I knew I was wrong." And I just hope he won't.
He won't. They're in denial. Listen. I mean,
because he hurt people.
The part of all of this, and this is where they have to pull their vision back, and the only way you can get them to see this is like, listen, you had an agenda, and you reported on a medical thing that you didn't know about. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying them.
But maybe they did know, and they just wanted to keep it.
But whether you did or didn't, what you do is you undermine these institutions that actually had trust before. National Institute of Health, World Health Organization, there was a lot of trust with them before. And as soon as they were in bed with China, they became dishonest brokers. And then all of a sudden, there's an agenda instead of information. Americans really, over two and a half centuries, generally have done the right thing when given information.
Right.
We do.
This is why we agreed to do 15 days to slow the spread. We thought, well, this sounds very dangerous. I mean, I even said, whoa, sounds the president's.
And we were ignorant then. We didn't know. So we were willing to do anything at that point because we didn't know. But 6 months in, we kind of knew.
I knew even earlier.
Yeah, I know. I did too.
I have a pretty good BS meter, and I think it's my Midwestern background in my family. You know, you can't pull a lot over when you're from a big family. I don't know how many people in your family, but if someone in your family, if you're trying to say something, one of your siblings is going to call you out on the BS on it.
It's worse than that with me. I mean, like, I'm from an Irish and Greek family. Like, bullshit. Oh, come on. Like,
I guess we can swear on this, right?
Oh yeah, this isn't on NBC.
Well, I'm not going to.
Fox. No, you're running for office. I'm not yet. So let's move on to the next thing, okay? What do you think?
I could go on and on, though, about COVID, because that was
You and I could talk for an hour on any one of my line items.
I just want to say one thing. I walked away because I realized that the media was not just unpatriotic, and I always tried to keep everything.
Did you get fired?
Oh, hell no.
Did you get let go? Were your ratings good?
Ratings were number one.
Okay.
When I came to Fox 10, we weren't number one, and shortly after I got there, I had a great co-anchor, and we had great chemistry, and we became number one really quickly, and we held that.
So there's a lot of people who say
years.
you left because you came off the rails with a bunch of conspiracy theories.
Not at all.
And I don't believe that, but I also don't have TV, so I don't watch the news.
The thing is, I'm the front runner, and people are really nervous about me.
I get
They're
it.
saying anything, and it bothers me that so many lies are out there, and I could spend my whole day trying to attack it, go after each of those lies and correct it. But people are going to say what they want to. I walked away from a very high-paying job they did not want me to walk away.
Okay.
I walked away from that.
Okay.
And it took a lot of prayer. I mean, it's scary to walk away from a paycheck.
Sure.
I prayed a lot. I really returned to my faith, and I said, God, I know this is an immoral line of work, and I can't. Once you know something's immoral, it's one thing when you do it and you go, okay, it's not perfect all the time. But once you go, this is immoral. And when I saw my neighbors, I live in a neighborhood with elderly people, and I tell this story about my next door neighbor. One of the most beautiful 90-year-old women I've ever met. You would have never guessed she was 90. She swam every day. She lunched with her friends. Her husband was a World War II hero.
Active, vibrant 90-year-old.
Active.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Who I wanted to be at that age. I saw her about 4 or 5 months in, maybe 6 months in, and she looked like I don't, in case she's listening, she just looked horrible. It had just killed her. She's never been the same. She's on a walker
Most
now.
of us who have elderly people in our life have seen this, how awful this has been on them and kids.
Yeah, it hurt them and it
This
killed
has
them.
killed
The isolation.
This has been hurting and doing the most damage to the very people that we really should be cherishing and protecting the most.
Right.
Our elderly who have our history and our lineage, and our kids who are going to carry the message forward.
Yeah.
And we've been bad stewards.
We had our kids convinced they were killing grandma and grandpa.
Unbelievable.
We had-
And then old people who oftentimes have nothing else to live for but their kids and their
I know,
grandkids.
it's cruel.
And they're locked up.
It's so cruel.
This makes
And
me
then-
so mad. I just lose my shit talking about this.
I know.
I lost my uncle during it. Couldn't go to his funeral.
Couldn't even
go in the
remember
hospital.
these great people.
Unbelievable.
My neighbor was a World War II veteran, 82nd Airborne. He was there for D-Day. He parachuted behind German lines. He died during this and could not have a proper burial.
It's
this man,
goddamn criminal what's
it is,
happened.
and I feel my blood pressure going up right now.
So let's move on because I think we
But
know where
no,
you stand on that.
I walked away. I left an amazing career. I walked away from an amazing paycheck, but I just said, I can't do it. And I know that I'm doing the right thing, and I know that God will protect me. I did not think I was going to get into politics.
Okay.
Only after I walked away, I put a video out. It went viral. I just wanted to let people know, hey, I'm leaving. I didn't want anybody else to tell the story of why I left.
You're
she left.
trying to control the narrative.
Yeah, she left to pursue other. No, I left because journalism has died, and I'm not willing to lend my voice, my soul, my heart, my face, my reputation to it anymore. And I wanted the public to know that.
Okay.
And so I put that video out, and immediately it went viral. I didn't expect it. I just wanted the people of Arizona to know why I was leaving.
Okay.
Because
All right.
people disappear. And that's when people started saying, thank you. I loved watching you. I'm going to miss you. But would you run for office? Have you ever thought about running for office? I was still thinking about the 2020 election, and I still am. I wasn't thinking about 2022, but it was a constant drumbeat of people saying, please run.
Okay.
Please run.
All right.
And that's when I decided to think about it. And I thought, you know what? Why not me?
So the next little section of our chat, if you will, we're going to do a little bit of a lightning round here. So we're going to go a little fast, okay?
Okay.
This is one of the hardest things we as humans do is kind of look in the mirror and be honest with ourselves, with our shortcomings and our strengths.
Okay.
Through that exercise, we find our personal growth and who we are, right?
Okay.
Hey, would someone bring my drink in for me, please?
You want this one?
No, that's okay. Okay.
There's a whiskey over here, too.
So I have a couple of thoughts. I've been talking about you for the last couple of weeks with my friends who are politically active. Thank you very much, Bobby. I've been talking about you with my friends that are politically active a little bit and just kind of hearing some feedback from them. I've got a couple of things that I wanted to chat with you about.
Okay.
They're the same. I kind of distilled them to what was going on with several people. These are other stuff. This is fun stuff.
Okay.
The first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to ask you, what do you think quickly your negatives are? What are your weaknesses in this campaign?
In the campaign?
Not just the campaign, but like
And me personally?
your personal experience, your makeup as getting ready to run for the chief. You're running for the chief executive position of a 7 million person state, and you've been reading the news and doing reporting.
Okay.
Tell me what your
Why am I qualified?
What do you think your negatives are? And we're going to talk about your positives next, so you don't have to
I
build in
don't
there.
necessarily think that's a negative. I really don't. We've been electing the same type of people. Oh, they have to have a business background. Fife Symington, from Fife Symington to Doug Ducey. Jen Brewer's background was she was a hairdresser at one point. The qualifications for running, I meet all of them. I am somebody who has covered this state for 27 years. I understand the people and the issues. I've covered it from north, south, east, west.
Okay.
So I understand the issues. I also understand the political figures who've served.
Players.
players.
Yeah.
Some of them have served. We do have some good lawmakers. I don't want to throw every politician under the bus.
No,
There's some good ones.
Gosar's one of my favorite.
Gosar, and he endorsed
Yeah,
me.
love him.
I'm so honored.
Yeah.
Actually, his endorsement to me is equal to having President Trump's endorsement.
When I saw him speak at Turning Point, Charlie Kirk's thing a few months ago, my dad and I both looked at each other and we had tears in our eyes.
Oh my gosh.
His impassioned, I could see
I
him.
was crying. It was unbelievable.
See him kind of struggle through his, he's got a little physical thing going on and he was working. And I was like, who is this guy? And about 3 minutes in, my dad and I were both wrapped.
choked up.
And then at the end, I was like, oh, my dad goes, holy shit, who's that guy, man?
One
He's
of the
awesome.
greatest Americans, I believe. I think he's one of the greatest congressmen this country's ever seen. I think that our founding fathers, that's what they envisioned. Obviously not the Nancy
Just
Pelosi's.
awesome. Love him.
So I have his endorsement, and he doesn't throw endorsements out very well.
So,
But let me...
so let's talk about your
the
shortcomings.
negatives. Okay, yeah. And this is how I
We're
talk.
going to end on a high note, so
Okay.
but we're going to work through
Well,
the...
I don't think these are the shortcomings that the people I'm running against try to throw at me. I think their shortcomings are that they've been in politics for 30 plus years and they want another public pension and they're on the public seat. But let's go back to me.
Everybody wants to hear.
So I don't think that's a shortcoming. I think that being a journalist, a fair journalist, is actually a great background. They said the same thing about Ronald Reagan.
I don't think those are negative either, but what are your negatives?
I don't have any.
Well, you got to have some weaknesses. Come on.
Maybe I'm a little bit stubborn sometimes. I mean, you want to bring my husband in here and ask him what my negatives are.
I'm talking about the look in the mirror. That's why I got you here.
Yeah, I know this is going to sound conceited. I try whenever I feel something that might be maybe a shortcoming. I'm always trying to improve on it.
Well, then let me start with a couple for you. I'll throw a
Give me
couple
what you
at you.
think are my negatives.
So if someone came at me and said, hey, what do you think Kari's weaknesses are? I would say absolutely lack of executive experience.
Okay, where did that get us with Doug Ducey? Let me just throw something back.
Oh, no. I'm not saying I would not obfuscate in any other direction. There are ways, like right now, what you've got is 13 or 12 months or whatever it is to put together an executive team and start learning some of the hard-earned lessons of cutting bad team when they're not on point. Right. Trump was a really good executive leader who didn't put it together really well into the body politic. He and you could tell the country wasn't used to a boss getting rid of people who weren't competent, because he was critiqued time and time again for getting rid of this general or getting rid of that person or getting rid of this secretary or firing that one.
Everything he did that was good was critiqued as bad in the media.
Here's my mission. Here's the job. The numbers are this on it, and I believe it. Let's do it. Push back. Okay, next. Get out of the way. Get me somebody who can get the job done. And he wasn't able to communicate that real well to the country.
Okay, so let me address that. I am a leader, and I am running a campaign right now. And I think if you ask anybody on my campaign, I am a leader on that campaign. Everything's going through me, and I am starting to pull people in, and bring people in that I think are really important and can be helpful. I'm not looking for establishment swamp creatures. I'm looking for people who are outside of government, much like President Trump. I love the way he brought people in from the outside. We got to get some people who love this state and this country in, and that's who's going to surround me. And Reagan was accused of not having the experience. He was an actor. He read scripts. What the hell does he know about running the state of California? He turned out to be one of the best governors of California and obviously went on to be a legend in politics.
Right.
He was called the great communicator. We are in a war right now when it comes to narrative and the story and the facts. Would you agree with that?
So you're going to overcome your lack of executive experience with great communication skills?
No, I'm going to be able to communicate what's really going on, because right now people don't know what the hell's going on. Okay. They're believing and I'm going to assemble great people around me. I think people assume that Doug Ducey or Trump or whatever had his sleeves rolled up and was actually with the calculator doing the budget. And you're bringing the good people in. You're bringing qualified people in. Sure. And you have, this guy's a legend. So you have skill that runs the gamut, but I think when you have leadership skills, it's knowing right from wrong and doing the right thing and bringing the right people in. We've been accused, and this is a lie, that we have McCain people on our staff, which that actually does piss me off, by the way. We have nobody like that.
Yeah, my least favorite Arizona Republican ever.
I took, if you want to call him a Republican, we went through great efforts to make sure everybody we brought on, we have a small team, is quality human being who loves this state and loves this country. And there's no establishment, no swamp creatures. The funny thing is that the people who are attacking me for that, I'm not going to name names, they're the ones who have the McCain consultants and all the McCain people surrounding them.
Well, don't get caught up in their small localness,
and
because
this is
the
the
rest of
thing.
us out here in voter land, we don't care about all that political
Well, and this is the
wrangling.
thing, that they're throwing all sorts of stuff out there on me. And so people go, why aren't you addressing this? And I tell people, because I don't want to spend my time addressing what really small-minded people are pushing.
Agreed.
I want to campaign. I want to talk to the people of Arizona, find out what their needs are and their issues are, and then work with them. I want to make Arizona a really great state, a free state, the freest state in the country. And I want to make it a great state for business and a great place to raise a family. Right now, we've got crime that's running out of control. Have you ever been down to Phoenix?
Sure.
It's turning into a little slice of California. And I don't like that. I was driving the other day to a campaign event. There was an insane man, obviously on drugs, walking down the street. And I thought, can you imagine being a mother with a baby in a stroller, going anywhere near this maniac on the street?
Yeah, I don't know what's happened. We've noticed it a lot. The obviously the fentanyl and the drug thing has created a entire little class of street denizens who are, they've got their little corners, their little fiefdom, and I wouldn't want, in whole parts of this town, I wouldn't want my daughter to walk down the sidewalk anymore.
You wouldn't want it.
Because
well,
every counter
you
they
actually be fine walking down, but you'd have to go hand-to-hand combat with some people.
So I turned around in a parking lot about 6 months ago, and it was off of Bell Road and I-17. I was just turning around a parking lot. I'd missed my turn off.
Yeah.
I was talking on the telephone. I missed my turn. I pulled into the parking lot to turn around, and a homeless guy there was getting ready to get into a gunfight with me.
Oh my gosh! Like pulled out a gun?
Yeah, and I paused and waited for him, and he pulled out a gun, and I was just like, and he's got nothing to lose, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I'm going to get shot in a parking lot
my gosh.
by a homeless guy because I hit the brakes and waited and
needed to
I went like this with my hand. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Walk right across. You were just going to get run over. Go right ahead. And the guy pulls a gun out. Now, he didn't point it at me, but he pulled out a pistol and it hung down at his side. And I was like, okay. I mean, this is dangerous.
Thank God you
out
took
here.
a moment to just go, and then he walked by and you're still here. Thank
And
you.
I was just thinking,
But this is dangerous,
everyone
yeah.
thinks, these homeless people, let's just give them money. And
yeah.
they're actually really dangerous.
I
They're
have a
very
plan.
emboldened.
I have a plan to address homelessness, and we need to do it.
Okay.
And it needs to be, obviously we're caring people, but whenever there's an industry created around a problem, homelessness,
Yeah.
an industry is created,
Yep.
does that industry really want to solve the problem?
No.
There's too much money
No,
involved and corruption.
they want the issue. They don't want it gone.
They want the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what's happened.
Sure.
And we need to give people, obviously, when we're done with the forensic audit, which we are, and when we get to the bottom of our elections and reform them, we're going to do, as when I'm your governor, we are going to do an audit of every department and agency in this state. We're going to get to the bottom of the corruption and the waste, because there's plenty of money to make sure if we have mentally ill drug addicts or mentally ill people running around making our streets and our neighborhoods dangerous, let's offer them help. If they don't want it, then you got to move along. We're not going to just let drugged out crazy people wander the streets and make them unsafe for families and tax-paying, hardworking Arizonans who want their communities back.
I'm looking forward to hearing what your plan is on that. Let me jump on to the next little section here. What are your positives quickly? Because I asked you for negatives and you couldn't come up with any. If you said, Greg, what are your negatives? I could be like, well, I can be a high-functioning narcissist. I can have a tendency to not listen to people unless I practice my regimen of pumping the brakes and letting them give their information so that they feel part of the decision that I've already made in my head. I can be very self-centered, and I can be stingy with money. I mean, I could go through my little list of stuff, and those affect how my ideas project into the world, So
Well, I did say I can be stubborn.
Okay, stubborn.
I'm sure I can nag. I can be a nagger.
Look, you're a stubborn nagger.
Yeah, ask my kids. My son's thrilled that I'm running. I was like, are you guys okay with this? And it has been a sacrifice on the family.
Sure.
My daughter's graduated from high school, but my son's a senior. And I think he's thrilled. He's like, Mom's barely ever home. I don't get nagged. I think he's loving the fact that I'm running.
Oh, so freedom early.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And he's growing a lot with that freedom.
So-
My positive is I think I have a really good work ethic. And I told you I've been working
So you're a hard worker.
since I was 14. Very hard worker.
Next.
Nothing will not get done because of laziness with me. I will work until my hands are raw.
Next.
I'm a positive person. I always
I could tell that about you.
yeah.
You have an indomitable personality.
I try to, whenever I see a problem, I immediately go, how do we fix that?
Okay.
And sometimes that is a flaw, actually. I never just, it's like, I always try to analyze and fix something.
I know, I do the same thing. And sometimes I have to just let
bugs
people...
the hell out of my husband and people around me, but I actually think it's a positive.
I think
gonna
it's
come in
positive for the
handy.
world, but it boomerangs back around and hits me a lot of times.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, we can just fix that.
Let me tell you another negative. Now that I'm thinking of my positives,
Look at us.
I am incredibly.
Hold on, let me put on my German accent
yes.
for psychoanalysis.
Bring
it.
I have a very critical eye. It's a good thing, I think.
Oh,
but
I
I
do too.
walk
It's
in.
awful.
I can walk into a restaurant that is perfect.
Find the one thing.
And I go, oh, that lighting is really harsh over there. Oh, this menu's sticky. Oh, I wish they actually had a different booth set up. So it's like, it drives everybody nuts. If I watch a movie, I can find all the things that went wrong. I'll be the one that found the edit that was bad.
I just learned to keep that quiet. That's my natural Greg voice, is a default critic of stuff.
Yes.
And because especially stuff that's wrong.
And you're like, does the world need to know this right now?
No,
probably not.
it wears everybody down around me. Like I have literally warned people away from me just because I'm like, well, it's too much.
My kids don't want to watch movies. They're like, you're the worst person to watch a movie. Well, especially now, I can't watch anything that's modern because there's always such a virtue signaling
when the
agenda
virtue thing happens,
from the first scene, right?
I'll be like, everyone goes, oh no, just watch the movie, because I'm like, did you see that? That's actually Marxist what they just said, and that is actually anti-business, and that actually loses jobs, and that is big communism right there.
Or why are they throwing that disgusting scene in there? It's like hypersexualization. Our kids don't need to see it. This is just detracting from our culture.
Why did the teacher need to be a trans? Why is this a trans show?
Well, there's always some big, somebody's coming out or doing this. It's like, okay, do we have to throw that in? Does it really help the plot?
Listen, I was going to give you a chance
so
to make
we should
points.
watch a movie together.
Oh my God. It was probably be, well, as long as we don't have pistols in the room and your TV's safe. I mean, I'll shoot the TV.
We had to pause it and go, did you just see that?
We were going to try and give you a chance to curry favor with the LGBTQ community, because I was going to be like, all right, we're going to take questions from the audience, and I was asking if you ever kiss your campaign manager if you guys have cocktails.
No,
I know it's awful, but we thought we were just joking about like, Greg, what are you going to talk about? And I was thinking about all the people who might be listening, and I have some trans people who watch my stuff and critique. And I just thought
what?
We were a bunch of jerks just trying to be funny,
I worked in media. I have a lot of friends who are gay.
Right.
And most of my conservative friends who are gay, I was endorsed by Rick Grinnell. Do you know who that is?
No.
Former DNI, Department of National Intelligence. Yeah. He's the guy.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly who he is.
Yeah. He's the guy who broke open the deep state. He basically declassified the deep state. Remember, he came out with that massive briefcase. It was like this big, and it looked like it weighed.
But he's a gay, right?
He's gay. He's gay. He's one of my friends, and I become friends with him. He's endorsed me.
I really like him, actually.
He's amazing.
I've heard him speak a couple of times, and
Former
I'm always
ambassador.
like, oh man, he's serious, and he
helped usher in peace.
And you can tell he loves the country too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's gay, and so I have a lot of conservative friends. I have a couple of gay people that are close in my circle. Do you know what they're tired of? They're tired of the agenda of it all. LGBTQ. We keep adding. And listen, I want everyone to live a free life. I truly do.
Yeah.
I believe that a lot of gay and lesbian people, a lot of my friends feel that sometimes that as it keeps going further out with further
It's
kind
too
of
far.
It's hurting them. They say, this is what I'm being told.
Yeah.
We've done so much. We've seen so much to get our freedom. We just want to live free.
Right.
We don't want to live in the closet. We don't want people to bother us. Just let us live.
Yeah.
And now they're worried that they're losing favor with the public because it's gone too far. Now we're seeing girls' sports that's being decimated by crazy policy.
It's happened everywhere. If I sit around a table of guys that own companies and we talk about accusations that have been thrown against us by the inevitable rub with the public that we get. Now, I'm in the public a little bit more. I hang it out pretty hard, but if yeah, I know it's shocking, but I've always like been very egalitarian about hiring anybody, no matter if they're black or Hispanic or whatever. I mean, I don't care. I've told people if purple one-legged lesbians were good knife makers, my whole company would be a bunch of purple one-legged lesbians.
You want qualified people.
I want people who can make stuff. And I've always said capitalism is the great equality mechanism, because a real capitalist who just wants success and prosperity doesn't care what color you are. They want you to show up on time and work.
America's not a racist place.
It's really not.
It's not. And this is, again, the
But we've
agenda.
got some ring in the toilet bowl from the Jim Crow era, from the Civil War. But that stuff is, you ask somebody who grew up in the South in the 1950s how modern America compares to that, and they will laugh at how not racist it is. And I think what happens is people confuse bias, prejudice, race, and they kind of lump it all together in one thing. You don't want to be a 70-year-old fat person. That's what you don't want to be in this country, because they get no preference from anyone.
Yeah.
Like there's bias everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're struggling through that all the time.
But the whole racist thing is when you started calling somebody who just supported President Trump racist, it's really despicable that they've taken a word that really, it's a horrible thing to be racist, and they've just thrown that out there willy-nilly and called everybody that. It's losing meaning. That now they're calling people Nazis. It's like, oh gosh, the left is so exhausting, and they're trying to divide us further by race. They're trying to take us backwards by teaching CRT to our kids and teaching them to hate themselves or their classmates. Martin Luther King Jr. in his "I Have a Dream" speech, it was one of the most perfect speeches ever. And we judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin.
Sure.
To see this happening again in this country is
crazy.
appalling.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy. We were, I had somebody I interviewed, and they made it through the interview with me, and we put them out in the shop on a trial week.
They made it through. Is there a chance I might not make it through this?
No, you're going to survive. You're doing great.
Okay.
But I interviewed this kid, and he was, African-American kid, and he had been in the Marines, and he was bombing the interview, and I kind of helped him get through the interview, and I was like, all right, let me try you out where I think you're the best fit, and it's a trial week, and they're going to let me know if you've got some chops. If you don't have chops and it's not your skill set, we're not going to hire you. So just go do your best. We want you to succeed. 3 days in, they're like, hey, dude, get him out of here. He's not ready for this skill set. So I let him know. And he got on the internet with several of his friends and came at me basically saying I had fired him because he was a racist. And I'm like, dude, I hired you.
Bad.
And what happens is, and this is a little bit to your comment, what happens is this has happened to all of my friends that own companies. Yeah. And at some point, we all have these natural proclivities from our upbringing and in our history that has changed, that's gotten us here. 1970 was a different racial level of tension in this country than there is right now.
Yeah.
And so we bring our past with us, and we try to make the best decisions we can and be unbiased and be good and be just.
Right.
And what happens is you have this thing happen and have them get some lawyers from the ACLU or from the National Labor Relations Board and come at you within an hour.
Oh, wow.
And then what happens is, and I've had this happen to several of my friends, all of a sudden you interviewed the next black person and you're afraid. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, I got in so much trouble.
Like, I tried to hire that guy and it didn't work out. Well, what do I do? So what they don't understand is all of that crying foul, when it's not really foul, it actually injures the cause, whether it's gay and lesbian or whether it's Hispanic or black or whatever, any groups trying to get enfranchisement.
So next time you wouldn't give someone a chance saying, well, maybe they're not totally qualified for this, but I really want this person to succeed and I'll bring them on. Next time you'd say, I need to see 100% qualifications met.
What it does is they've started to build a real experiential verifiable bias that I struggle really hard to not have there. Yeah. As a human being, I'm trying to be egalitarian. You want your business
to not be sued and all of that, right?
Yeah, I'm like, God, how can I avoid getting sued? Like that's making false claims of racism make a problem. Because the thing is you don't have to be guilty anymore. All you have to do is be accused. Yeah. So what happened is Google came after my customers and said that they were going to disappear them on the internet if they didn't drop my brand.
Wow.
Now we got the emails and we got that bell unrung at Google, but Google the company.
Scary.
And
Google going after you is pretty damn scary.
So I pay them for my placement, my advertising, a lot of other things, and then they were going after my customers. So it was kind of a RICO situation where I was being shook down for money and they were taking my business. Terrible. It was really weird. So we got the bell unrung and we fixed that, but it's a spooky world and it makes you afraid of anything.
Yeah.
So what most CEOs or most presidents, most boss people do, they just kind of disappear. You can't get to them. Yeah. They want to insulate themselves from the mayhem.
And that's not how you run this
No,
place.
it can't. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
I want to talk some issues with you. Do you have any axes to grind? Let's let's say I were running for governor, I would come to the table with some issues that I want to spearhead for individuals, for businesses, and for some communities within the group that I was running to, represent.
Okay.
Do you have any issues like that you bring to the table besides how we've handled COVID and the election audit? Do
You mean
have
access to grind with the people that are currently in office?
No. And when I say axe to grind, like, let's say, for instance, if you were to say, Greg, you're running for governor, what are you going to do for businesses? I would come in and say, okay, I want fairness in banking. If we're doing a legal enterprise, bank that does business in the state of Arizona can't discriminate against firearms companies who are doing a legal business. They can't discriminate against a knife company. I've been discriminated, had my money seized numerous times because we make what they call a weapon. They just seize the money and you don't get it back.
Wokeism has gone into every agency.
So do you have any
industry.
things like that where you're like, hey, I've found some issues I've stumbled across that I definitely want to fix right away? And do you have any of those?
Well, I really want to see, and we talked a little bit about it. I call it, we talked about President Trump's opportunity zone. I talked about it out there on your floor. I want to see a resiliency zone brought to Arizona. I call it that. I probably need a snazzier name. If you can help me out, I'll take it.
I'm usually good with that.
Resiliency zone doesn't just like flow off the tongue. But I really want to see manufacturing come back. We're seeing what's happening right now with the cargo ships backed up off the California coast.
Right.
We have a real issue. You're starting to notice store shelves are going bare. It feels like communism, doesn't it? And what you're doing here, and you talk about how every single part you have is made in America or in a kind of an ally-friendly country, right?
Yeah, so I try to buy machines from good global citizens.
Right.
So Western Europe and Japan,
And
South
think how
Korea.
hard that is. So what I want to do is bring back manufacturing to Arizona. I really want to make
So
that.
do you have an idea how to do that?
Well, I'm working with some people right now, and I'm hoping to work with you a little bit more on that because I need to bring people in who actually manufacture things here.
Oh, I have thoughts on it. I have big thoughts on it. Lots of thoughts on it.
But I want to start manufacturing things that are really essential for us. We realized that all the essentials weren't even manufactured here. I mean, you probably already knew that because you're a manufacturer.
Yeah.
But we don't even have our drugs being manufactured here.
Right.
And President Trump worked really hard to bring manufacturing back across the border, bring it back to America. And it's going to cost a little more. But you know what? We're getting garbage from China that's made by slave labor. So if you don't care about the quality of the product, do you care that it was stolen probably from a reputable country?
Yeah.
If you don't care about that, well, surely you care that the people of China, and they're good people. I'm talking about the leaders now, the communist leaders. They are abusing the people and they're killing the people and they don't give a damn about the people of China. So surely Americans, especially on the left, who supposedly care about everyone, right, should at least care about that.
What's spooky is that because Americans are really good-hearted, generous people, we really are. We don't realize what's happened in the last 40 years in China. They have had one of the most rigorous top-to-bottom propaganda campaigns, anti-American, that's ever happened. And they actually, when you say the people of China, they hate us. It's the intellectual class may want the actual intellectual freedom of America, but in general, they hate us. And people say, oh, that's not true. It's true. When you walk in China and you see the billboards and you see their propaganda for these wars to fight against America and you hear them sing against America, they hate us. They have programmed them and it's a problem.
But you know what?
Freedom can overcome that.
Naturally, communist China hates us. But what bothers me most is that our own political class sold us out.
Oh.
Think about it. Think about what they're
You know who
doing.
the worst is? The universities.
Oh, well,
Because
one person I'm running against is lobbying for this garbage.
Yeah,
And-
to be
and-
involved with the universities at this point is spooky because they're dirty.
You know about the Confucius Institute.
I do.
Sounds like a really cute little name. Oh, how fun. We're going to have great relations between China and us. No, that's not what it is.
It's a stealing
They're
entity.
stealing our research.
Yeah.
They're dropping in spies. And they're really infiltrating our universities.
And these leftist commie teachers, and I'm not some propagandist, these leftist teachers, they feel like it's not a moral compromise to take cash payments and give information. They're They're in every university in America.
Because so many of them have either been brainwashed themselves or whatever they're reading is
They
teaching
actually
them,
think they're
they
being
think
just
America's bad.
doing that.
They're
Yeah.
like, well, America's bad, so we have to, it's really disgusting. But more importantly is you got to go to the leaders of those universities, the presidents of the universities, our own Michael Crow. And one of the guys I'm running against who was lobbying in support of the Confucius Institute. He was wrong about that. So we can't have people in power, whether it be our governor, and our governor's making deals.
So you're talking about Matt Salmon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
And Governor Ducey making deals, and everyone wants to get chummy with China. And now, hopefully, they're waking up and they realize that China is the root of our problems in this world. They've taken our manufacturing.
Our greed is.
It's greed, you're right.
Because we've let them come in. And you know what's funny? We are a bunch of babies. We say they stole. We say they did. Some of us have been stolen from. But our country as a whole, we want cheap shit.
Right.
We don't want to have to follow the rules that we vote for. So we buy cheap shit made outside those rules.
Right.
And then our leaders take bribes. The Chinese bribed, because that's their way of doing business. They bribed our professors, they bribed our research institutes, and they bribed our politicians to get what they want. They got America and they bought it.
Yep.
They bought it from the intelligentsia and they stole it from the rest of us. And we're all going, what happened?
And they're poisoning our youth. I mean, they get involved in the Hollywood, in some of the crowd.
Yeah.
We were talking about how bad the movies are.
Unbelievable.
It's degrading to our culture.
Yeah.
And it's degrading to our children's minds. So they're all for filling our minds with really a lot of garbage, and it's hurting our families.
It sounds like we could drink scotch together. Let's move on now.
I think we'll end up needing high blood pressure medication at the end of it.
That's what this scotch is for.
But I'm serious about wanting to bring back manufacturing. It's going to take some help, I think, from the state, because to start something up, and I looked at your facility here, I wish you need to do
it's millions of dollars.
Take a podcast with a camera and do the whole podcast walking through, unless there's too much secret
No, I
information.
do lots of that. I do lots of that.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, everybody. There's one of the things about my thing is transparency. Everybody kind of sees my gig.
And so I want to bring manufacturing back, and I want to have people investing in manufacturing. I want it made in Arizona. I want hiring Arizona. You know how often you see the ribbon cutting of a new company, and governors out there and political leaders. Oh, we brought this company in from another state, wherever, and they scrape the desert, and we find out they're hiring 500 people from California.
Right. And they're bringing in 100 from India.
Yeah, exactly. If we're going to be giving favors out, and I'm not a big fan of giving out favors, then Arizona, by God, better be getting something. And I'm talking hiring Arizona workers, because you bring in all these people, then they're competing to get houses, and then
all it does is it squeezes out locals.
Squeezes out locals.
You know, we were talking about this when you had that with that little
Small
gathering.
yeah.
And I would like raise my hand like, hey, don't curry favor with a bunch of big corporations to come in here, because it's bragging rights for governors to have these CEOs of these companies in their states.
I loved it when you said that. I was like, I love this guy.
Well, let's move on a little bit now, okay? I want to talk about just a couple of Arizona issues.
Really quick though, back to the cheap crap that we get from China. It is crap, and I think when you get a bunch of cheap stuff that's meaningless, you think about when you were little and you got your first knife. And it probably wasn't a piece of crap, piece of,
American made.
Plastic.
It was nice American made.
You probably worked hard for that, and you cherished that. We have so much junk now that it's just piling up.
I talk about this all the time, and
It's
it actually plays to the left's sense of injure the planet less and be less of a consumer. I tell people all the time, I go, listen, have your house have nothing in it that ever ends up in a garage sale. Only buy the best. And surround yourself. These physical things are not our life. There are things that we use as tools in our life, right? Have the things that are in your life be the very best, and you need less of them.
And less clutter and less garbage.
Yes, and don't buy anything that will ever end up in a garage sale.
Everything just loses meaning, you know, and it is bad for the climate. And the left always talks about the climate, and they're the ones pushing these masks on us that we don't need, that don't work, that you need to have.
I like a picture of a bird choking on a mask right now.
Yeah, I saw that. Was it today? It came out. I went, it's wrapped around its talons.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the garbage produced from just the COVID situation that's been pushed by the left. They're putting these masks on our children. You don't need more than a 7th grade biology class to realize it's not going to keep a virus away. And I saw something this week that I hope I can get through this because it makes me sick. Did you see the little girl for 6 weeks? She's a nonverbal Down syndrome girl, was sent to school, and she couldn't keep her mask on. She's got an enlarged tongue, and she salivates quite a bit, so the mask would just get wet, and it felt horrible against her. She shouldn't have had the mask on.
Right.
And the family apparently had an exemption, but the school put when she got to school, they tied a mask on her head. Ooh. And it was on there all day. And the only way the father found out is that the person who tied that on forgot to take it off at the end of the day, and she got off the bus with it on. She's nonverbal, so she couldn't tell her dad. And the monster who worked at that school, and I will call that person a monster, who tied that mask on that little girl.
Crazy.
Thinking they're doing the right thing. Tying as child abuse.
But what's going on is, so many teachers it's a vocation, it's a calling. They want to help kids, and these are wonderful folks. And then they get into this union, and this union, since its inception 100 years ago, has gotten more money and more money and more money, and has degraded education over the last 100 years so badly. And now you can hear their attitude when you hear them talk about parents as terrorists. The fact that we even had to have that discussion is telling.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to be having a discussion.
Boy, how eye-opening, though, for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Teachers
and they
unions.
colluded. The union colluded with the White House for this narrative because they were trying to silence opposition at thousands of school boards nationwide. The letters have all come out this last week.
Yeah.
It was collusion. And it's like a criminal enterprise. They take this money from these teachers, and they push the money to basically one political party.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely not geared towards
education. And if you're a
education.
teacher who doesn't want to pay into it,
You're
they
stuck.
make your life miserable. And you get a lot of teachers leave, and they're the conservative ones or the more common sense ones.
Yeah.
The sad thing is, and I wish teachers realized it, I have many teachers in my family, the teachers union, it really is not a union that cares about the teachers, and they sure as hell don't care about our kids.
No,
They
it's
were
a
the
political
ones
action committee
who worked and pressured the CDC to encourage them to keep the mask mandates going so our kids would be masked. Do you know how hard it is to learn when you've got masks on? You can't hear the teacher. You can't communicate with one another.
It's amazing. I think what was going on is initially and so here's the problem. Once you do something in government, nobody has the courage to say I was wrong, or I was right at the time, but it's wrong. We need to change. Yeah. So what they were doing was they were punishing everybody and inconveniencing everyone to put the heat on Trump. Mm-hmm. That's what was going on. I mean, you could almost hear it in their voices. And we all knew the mask thing was silly. We knew that this didn't affect kids hardly at all. Yeah. Then we knew there are a lot more dangerous things for kids that they're doing nothing about. Yet they did this.
The lockdowns. Think of the kids who got, committed suicide.
This was to inconvenience all of us so that it would punish us for who was most popular at the time.
Mm-hmm. For liking Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think that the unions are really the biggest risk to our education. And
they're the risk to the republic. Okay.
The unions and the corrupt media. And this is one thing with when President Trump endorsed me. He knows how dangerous the lies are, the narrative, the corrupt media, and he knows that I can take them on. I've done several interviews right now. I'm not afraid to just punch right back in their face when they come at me. Well, I don't know if you saw the CNN interview. I got ambushed by CNN last week.
Awesome.
It was great. I said, you know what? Cool your jets. I'm here to talk to these Republicans at ASU, and when I'm done, I will sit down and do an interview with you.
Did you sit down with them?
I did, and it did not go well for them. In fact, you can find that on my Rumble Kari Lake page.
All right, Kari Lake's Rumble page. So obviously, probably one of the, what can you possibly do at this point for election integrity? Tell me what you can do. What are the top 2 or 3 things? Or one. What's the top thing you can do for election integrity if you get elected?
I think what we can do right now is pressure. Put a ton of pressure on our governor and our lawmakers because we need something done before the election.
Well, that's the thing. And,
they need to call special session.
I don't think anything's going to happen. And so you're running with the same machines and the same system that has been screwing us over for decades. So my question to you is, if you get elected because you win by a big enough margin, what can you do then?
For starters, anybody out there saying don't vote in 22 because we have the same system and all that is a bad person. Don't listen to them. I shouldn't say bad person. They're wrong. They want fewer people to vote. We need to go out in droves like our friggin'
They're doing the thing they accuse the conservatives of. They're disenfranchising people to discourage them from voting.
So here's what I want to tell people. This is very important. Yes, our election system is far from perfect. It's corrupt and it's a mess. But had Trump not won by a mile and had such huge support and then lost, that exposed all of the corruption. Had he just kind of eked out a win, we wouldn't have seen how bad the corruption was. So we need to go out in 22, vote like our lives depend on it. Even if you don't think the system is fair, and it is not going to be fair, go out in droves. So one of the reasons they don't want me is because I'm going to bring people to the polls. So we have a huge movement.
Here's the thing. Here's what we need to do. This is the fix, okay?
Okay.
This is part of the fix. And
you mean the reform, not the fix, because we already had the fix.
This is part of how you get to the governor's race and win, how you get to the office, is you get people, part of your plank, they're saying, well, how are you going to fix anything? You're not the governor yet. Right. How are you going to get elected if the cards are stacked against you?
I have to answer a lot of hypotheticals,
well, so you say, listen, here's how I get elected. The people who support me volunteer in their precincts to man polling stations. And the non-presidential off-year, 2-year election, which is the least attended, we need to have engagement and we need to volunteer for it. So we don't have California volunteers coming in from California to man our voting polls here.
That should be illegal.
Damn right it should be. So in the meantime, as governor, running for governor, as someone running for governor, that's one of the things as part of your campaign is activism to volunteer and get my locals involved.
Do you know we have more volunteers right now than any campaign across the entire country?
We love it.
We have a ton of volunteers, and we will get them out.
All right, good.
Our biggest problem right now is what do we do with all of our volunteers?
Well, the biggest thing we do is we watch, because if we have somebody there watching,
we know what to look for now.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
20 showed us how corrupt and disgusting these people are.
Right.
So 22, we're going to go in there and know what to look for, but we can't sit home and let some of these people, even Republicans right now, I'm hearing them going, well, maybe we shouldn't. No, you should get out and vote. We need to vote in droves.
Question answered. Moving on.
Okay.
Do you have a firearm?
I have several.
All right. What's your favorite one?
Well, I have a small Glock that I carry around with me, so watch out.
Do you know which one it is?
Oh, gosh.
All right.
I'm going to say.
So in the future, you should know which one it is. Because as Arizona people want it. Is it Glock 17 or Glock 19?
19.
Gen
it's
3?
a Glock 19.
Is it Glock 19? Gen 3, Gen 2? Do you know which one?
Oh, geez. Okay, my husband.
You want to know that stuff.
I know.
And then when's the last time you shot?
I just shot about 3 weeks ago. We had an event.
You know what we should do? We
have probably 3 AR-15s. We have an AK-47.
Okay.
Now this is where I'm going to go bad, because some of these I don't know the name of. But
okay, don't go anywhere. That's okay. Listen, so can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Just a thought, because I'm into marketing. I think you should get together with Travis Haley here in town, who's one of the big world renowned shooters. He's a former Marine. He's been in my old shop.
Okay.
I think we're going to do something together. He also has a podcast, but I think you should go do a training day with him. A 3-hour training block.
That'd be great.
I think you should video it. The Second Amendment people will go batshit crazy. That's what you got to do.
Okay.
Everybody talks shit about guns. Go shoot. We want to see you shoot.
Okay. I've got video like that. You're not obviously following me on social media.
No,
but you're right. We're going to do more of these gun.
It's not a photo op. It's real training with a guy that is, he's a legend. He was in one of the biggest gunfights we've ever seen on video before in the Middle East. And to go get some trigger time with him, one, it would be great for your campaign.
I would love it.
Two,
can you hook me up with him?
He's a great guy. We can probably make that happen. I'm sure we can make that happen.
Great.
He's a former Marine. He's a great guy. He's got a great company. He's a great Arizonan, and he's a good guy to have on your side. I think you should go do a training session with him.
I would love it.
And it would be good.
Can my hubby come along, because he probably wants to get some training as well?
He could take pictures.
Let me just say one thing about the Second Amendment.
Okay.
And I believe this, and I've said this.
And I have a little more on the Second Amendment I want to talk about.
Without the Second Amendment, we would not have a country right now. And I'm not exaggerating. That's not hyperbole. We wouldn't have a country.
I agree with you.
We know what's going on with Australia.
Yeah.
And we've seen that, and that's horrifying.
Yeah.
This is the most important amendment.
We have to actually have the federal government be scared.
Yeah. We've already seen now, we can live without the First Amendment, sadly, because they've taken away our freedom. We don't have a freedom of speech. Censorship is going on right now. We need to get this back. They shut our churches down. We don't have freedom of religion. Our bosses now can inquire every detail about your religion so you can get your vaccine, exemption. It's none of their business. So we've seen the First Amendment get just cannibalized and ripped apart. Mm-hmm. And the only thing keeping this country together, I believe, is the Second Amendment. And I will never sign any piece of legislation that does anything to infringe upon that. And the scariest thing I think right now is going on, we talked about these woke universities. Mm-hmm. is the biggest gun-free zones in the country right now. I would venture to guess is probably ASU campus. Think how big that campus is.
Yeah.
It keeps growing.
Yeah.
Downtown
It's a
Phoenix.
whole city.
You walk downtown Phoenix, and boom, you cross the street, and you don't have your Second Amendment rights. You didn't realize you're stepping on ASU campus.
That's crazy.
You're in Tempe. I'm going to have a dinner over here. That's a cute little place. Walk over there. I'm on the campus. I don't have my Second Amendment rights. And there's people that I'm running against that are okay with that.
Yeah.
We need to really think about these gun-free zones and what it means for us Americans who need. Right now, 2 weeks ago, we had a young woman raped on campus. If you're a rapist and you're an assault, you're a criminal, where do you want to hang out? Biggest gun-free zone, downtown Tempe campus.
So
these criminals can target our daughters.
The nuance is challenging. So to throw it out there, a bunch of adolescent males that are all drinking too much shouldn't have firearms in their dorm rooms. I mean, I'm a guy who agrees with that.
Well, but I think when you're thinking of a college gun-free zone, you're thinking of a smaller. But when it spreads to where the campus is, the whole town now,
Right.
we need to figure out a way that our kids can have some protection.
And there's some precedent for that, right?
Concealed
There's
carry.
and there's safe passage laws.
They're pushing right now for concealed carry, and you need to have training with that and all of that. Obviously, we don't want to have in the middle of the campus somebody shooting things up, but I want my daughter to be safe if she's on campus and she's walking from a mile from here to here. These are huge campuses now. They're spread out in 5 different areas of town.
These are challenging issues for us if we're honest Second Amendment people,
Right.
because even the military in an infantry battalion doesn't let all those guys have loaded guns.
Yeah.
The idea of
But you see what I'm
unfettered.
saying?
Yeah,
how
no,
these
I do,
campuses are
I do.
growing to where they take over a whole area of downtown, and you go, wait a minute, I'm not even a student, and I'm walking over here, and I don't.
So there's
have my
got to
right.
be some sort of safe passage
Right.
legislation that can be done where, like, hey, look, I'm not a student here. I'm in transit doing my business and my living, and I need to be able to exercise my right as I am in transit doing my business.
That, and I also believe that we should. I mean, if you're a rapist or somebody who is a criminal, you go down to I know every single one of these girls down here is defenseless.
Right.
This girl gets raped at gunpoint and knife point 2 weeks ago on the ASU campus. I want my daughter to be safe when she's on campus.
We just sound crazy, though, when we say, yes, we should have unfettered Second Amendment rights
but
on
I don't
campus.
think that's what we're saying. We're saying we want responsible gun owners to have their Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
I want my daughter. She's walking a mile from a parking structure.
I want my
across
daughter, too, but I don't know if I want my son.
Well,
okay, so let's...
I just think I worry about these gun-free zones growing and growing and growing and growing.
Yeah,
As campuses start to grow and grow and take, we got one in Mesa now and in Tempe, and we need to really think about what we're giving up here.
Well, it's a tax-free business that's completely funded and never drops their prices and only gets bigger. So all they do is take over. They're like a virus.
You might not even realize you're on campus, and boom.
Talk to me about red flag legislation. I know there's lots of that pushing around right now. You have any thoughts on that at this point?
I'm opposed to it. I think we have a lot of laws right now that will keep somebody who has mental illness from purchasing a gun. So I'm opposed to adding any. Look at Chicago, all of the gun laws they have there.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause you because you got a Second Amendment knowledgeable crowd watching, and so the fact that you're opposed to all red flag laws, we're pretty good with. Let's move on. Second Amendment. Let's go to the First Amendment. Okay. Massive infringement on the government, big media, the tech oligarchs clearly are all steering the narrative. The town square has really become a digital space owned by 2 or 3 companies. What can you do? And I have some ideas. I know Governor DeSantis has ideas.
I loved Governor DeSantis' idea on that.
What can you do as an Arizona governor? I was disappointed. We should be ballers about stopping these big companies from infringing on our free expression.
Yes, I agree. I want to make censorship. I want to outlaw censorship.
You should be able to say stupid racist stuff online, and we should all know who you are. It sounds awful.
Wouldn't it be nice, though? One thing I really despise about social media is that so many people are hiding behind some ridiculous, I would love it if we all just were not, there was no anonymity. If you want to say what you want to say, you're doing it under your name and your face. So your reputation's on the line if you're going to start being kooky.
But I want to know who the racists are. I want to know who the Nazis are. I want to know who the a-holes are.
But you won't know it if if their profile picture's a water bottle and their name is whatever.
Yeah.
I want people to have freedom of speech, but it would be really nice because there's so many trolls out there. Here's the deal. what Governor DeSantis did, I thought that was a great policy. You're going to be fined if you take away our First Amendment right, if you censor us.
So how do you implement that? Have you thought about that at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I like the idea, and and I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, no, I know you don't. I'm not trying to pin you down like that.
I think though, when you run, people, and especially right now, people are so desperate. Their backs are against the wall. They're losing their jobs. Their kids are being, forced to wear masks, or now they're wanting kids to get vaccines, and they're coming to me and they're like grabbing me, going, "Help me! I need the answer." And I say, there's a lot of things that we need our current leadership to do. I won't be governor till January of 23. I can't solve every problem.
It's funny how saying something is enough. And I'll tell you what I mean. If you're the governor, you're obviously not in charge of everything.
Right.
You've got some executives
You're not the king.
You're not the king. But the fact, if you come out with a governor's directive or a mandate that says nobody can be discriminated against for not being vaccinated in the state of Arizona, no company, no bank can do business here if they discriminate against people who are doing legal business. If you just saying those things jams up their agenda.
Yeah.
Because it starts...
The bully pulpit.
That's exactly right. Because you start being able to say, hey, the governor says right here you can't do this. And they go, oh, shit, we can get sued.
Yeah. Or they start with saying, hey, we're not going to put up with this in our state. And then if you do it, okay, we're going to take it to the next level. We're going to get legislation to pass. The problem I have with our current governor, and I'm thrilled we have a Republican in office, trust me, because, well, I know, but think about he did not handle COVID well. But we saw how bad it was with the Gretchen Whitmer and all that. I mean, it could have been worse.
I think he's a big company scaredy cat.
He's a scaredy cat.
He got his wings clipped.
And he doesn't use the bully pulpit. Maybe he's not a great communicator. He's afraid to say anything bold. He's afraid to do anything bold. We need bold leadership. We need people who have, I hate to say it, I'm not going to say it.
They gotta have balls.
A backbone.
You
used to have at least. I used my friend and advisor out here. She goes, please don't say balls. Just come up with another word. Balls.
What are those things those guys use in the NBA?
Yeah. Well, so I say backbone now, but just trust me. Whenever I say backbone, I really secretly want to say balls. We need somebody with a backbone. Yeah. Who's going to do the right thing and say, I don't care what the public pressure is from the media.
Don't let her stop you from saying balls, because we here in Arizona.
How about coconuts? Is that better?
Oh, you could say huevos.
Huevos.
No, we in Arizona, we like people speaking the truth. Yeah. Trump has changed the narrative. You don't have to do what everyone thinks you need to do. That's how we're kind of running it. It's amazing.
I said when I ran, I want to be truthful. I want to speak the truth. And it's so much easier when you're just speaking what your heart and your soul is telling you to say and what your brain's telling you to say, not worried about, we have to go through the filter and how does it, we don't have a lot of people telling us that.
All right, so I want you to, just for me and a few of my compadres, gunslinging lunatic veteran types.
Okay.
We want you to go after the big tech companies. We want you to start some sort of legislation in motion. We want you to push. We know the legislation is sitting around on somebody's desk, and we want you to latch onto it. And we think it would be an excellent move for the state, for you guys to start finding a way to leverage them. They do business here. They have big warehouses here. They have a lot going on here, to say, look, you are going to be severely, and not $100,000 a day. They don't give a shit about $100,000 a day. We are going to stop your trucks from running in this state. Like, we need to drop the hammer on them. We need to force them to want to sue back. Yeah. So we end up in court and go, listen, you're infringing, and this is going to cost you big money, and I'm going to jam you up, and you can take me to court, but I can jam you up for a month.
Right.
And make them start paying and hurting. $100,000 isn't enough. It doesn't do anything.
To take away your First Amendment rights, right?
Yeah. So they're all part of this, and we've got to go after them.
I'm the only candidate who can do that, and here's why. I'm not owned by anyone. I'm truly not. The people of Arizona are funding me. Our support is coming. We got on the ballot in 3 weeks. We had enough signatures. The people of Arizona are so sick of these politicians who they're pushed by these consultants, and the consultants are funded by a lot of bad people, and they're owned by their special interests. And so they can't come in and do that because they might be owned by those special interests.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I want to go in and do some big things for Arizona. I want it to be the best state. I think it's a great state, but I want it to be the best state.
So what do we do about all of these leftists who show up here from the left coast? They show up here from California, Oregon, and Washington. They show up and I confront them all the time. And I start out very soft and polite. Hey, I see you're from California. And they're like, oh yeah, not one of those. And I go, well, how long you been here? Oh, we've been here 6 months. You love it? Yeah, you love it. Have you bought a gun yet? Well, no, we would never get a gun. Well, you're in the Wild West. Buy a gun or you're not an Arizonan, because we arm up, we exercise our rights.
And don't even think of trying to take
or go back to California. What can we do as a state? Have you thought about a solution yet? We all know there's a lefty problem coming here. What can we do to mitigate that? What can we do to square them away? How can we educate them?
It's interesting. It's funny. I just told you that I talked to somebody at an event the other day who said, I'm from California, but I'm conservative. And then proceeded.
And then they start talking about gun control.
3 seconds in, they're like, but the right needs to really come in and come to the middle and compromise on it. It's like, compromising on everything does not make you an effective leader. We've gotten into this situation because we've had way too much compromise. Coming into the middle doesn't satisfy anyone. Doesn't get anything done.
This is something
so
I've
even the people who come over here think they're conservative. California conservative is different than an Arizona.
Is a liberal here.
Yeah.
We, I talk about this a lot with people. We in America, we feel as good citizens who all love America, used to be the case, that we would all compromise and find kind of a central position, and that's the way forward. And what's happened is, our spouse, so to speak, has decided they need two new Porsches, and we don't make enough money. And the compromise is not to have one Porsche we can't afford. Every political thing that's going on right now is something extreme and crazy. And when we go, well, let's.
Wait, I'm lost. I'm thinking I want 2 Porsches now. What are you talking about with that?
Well, when I talk about, we're obviously the right and the left are always kind of in a battle. There's a tension, right, that's going on, this storm and drang that goes on between the two of us. And they want something and we want something. And what they want many times is batshit crazy. And so, then the answer is, well, you just need to compromise a little bit.
Defunding the police.
Well, halfway to batshit crazy is still crazy.
Yeah.
So we have to be stubborn about some stuff.
Absolutely.
So I want you to be stubborn.
I am. Remember, I told you my fault was I'm stubborn.
Yeah. I want you to be stubborn about what's right.
Defunding the police, one of the worst things I've ever heard. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I think they want chaos on the streets.
It's insane.
I will never bend an inch on that. We need to fully fund the police, and we need more police. You know how all of our agencies are short. They can't get guys and women to sign up. It's frightening, and we're not going to have safe streets. And so I want to fully fund it. I actually want to give a grant to help pay more for our officers. We need to attract people in. I know they're not doing it for the money. They do it because they love the job.
Yeah.
But if we don't have a great state if we don't have a safe state.
The funny thing about the police.
I don't know how we keep the Californians out, by the way. I never did answer that question. But I think people like you harassing them.
I've got some ideas too.
Okay, tell me.
Look, I'm getting the wrap up
I know.
from everybody out there. So I'm going to get you out of here
all day.
I'm going to get you out of here.
But we do have to be in Tempe.
I want to throw a couple thoughts at you before I get you out of here, because you have time. You got to be there at 6. It's 4:30, and we're going to be done in just a couple minutes.
We have to swing through Phoenix on the way.
We'll be done. Here we go. I want you to grow Arizona with Arizona companies.
Agree.
Okay.
That is a priority. We talked a little bit about, we get these companies to come in. They bring 500 people from Oregon or California. This is Arizona. We want Arizona.
Growth is organic growth. It's slow to build and it's slow to go away. Time will either expose or promote us, right?
And you see these companies when you're giving these perks to these corporations, and they're sitting there going, what about me? I've been working so hard to build this company. I've never gotten anything. Not that you want anything. You just want to be left alone to do your work.
There are companies across this landscape, if you roll in the manufacturing circles that I roll in, we could double in size. And small businesses are 60% of the employment of America. We are the backbone. It is not the Fortune 500. Those are the glitzy ones.
And those were the ones that got hit the hardest during the shutdown.
Absolutely.
Some of them will never come back.
Absolutely.
I've got one program that we're working on where it's it'd be perfect for Halloween, the day of, what do they call it, the Day of the Dead? If you lost your business due to a government shutdown, because through no fault of your own, but the government shut down twice in Arizona, we want to help you bring it back. And maybe you do get some breaks for a few years so you can build that business back. I want Arizona businesses. I don't want just a bunch of corporations. And I'm not anti-corporation, but I am pro-Arizona business. And I'd love to see some of these people who, through no fault of their own, lost everything because they got shut down and they just couldn't make it anymore and decided, okay, it's over.
Did you get a chance to talk about what you wanted to talk about today? Did we hit some good topics?
You never asked about my dogs. That would have been easy. No, it's funny because I go out and some of the critics, they're hitting me with ads already a year out. That's never
Good.
happened.
That's good.
And they're attack ads, and they're
That's
all
good.
BS.
That's good.
And they're saying, you know,
Let them
this
blow
and
their
that.
let
And
them blow their
she'll-
nut 13 minutes
she'll
out.
never ever answer the tough questions. And I think, dang, you got to follow me around. I answer tough questions all the time. I'm not afraid of any question. I'm a communicator. I'm smart. I'm tough, and we need a fighter. And President Trump isn't just endorsing anyone. He's endorsing people he knows are going to fight and are America first. Paul Gosar does not endorse people who are rhinos. Paul Gosar is a tough endorsement to get. I'm so proud of that. I think I told you it's right there, President Trump.
No, I'm
And-
happy
and
for you
Michael
getting those, and
Flynn.
I think that gives
Yeah.
you a big. I think that gives you
These
a
are
big leg up.
America First patriots who have given
Did
it.
Flynn back you up too?
Yes, Michael
that's
Flynn.
funny. I just made
and
a night
Mike
for him.
Lindell, and I love Mike Lindell. Talk about manufacturing. I want Mike Lindell, to open up manufacturing here in Arizona.
Yeah.
I think I've got a great idea for him. But these are people who gave up so much for this country.
Unbelievable.
Think of the canceling.
Oh.
I mean, if you, first of all, we got to stop worrying about being canceled. Who cares? It used to be very painful and hard. I've been canceled several times. I don't care what they say about me. I don't care what attack ads they run. I don't care what they call me. I don't care if I go to my deathbed and my reputation's been attacked by the left and they try to tear me down. If Arizona is growing and still standing and this country is still standing, then I'm going to be happy.
Cool.
We got to stop worrying so much about our own. That's ego when you're worried so much
Oh
about
no,
that.
I tell people all the time, be a baller. Just do what you're gonna do and let the cards fall where they
Exactly.
will. And,
And we-
people
and
actually,
we have-
as many as you lose, you'll pick up for your authenticity.
Oh, so much more.
Yeah.
You're the real patriots.
Yeah.
And the reason I really get angry with the left right now is that they've been trying to tear down patriotism. We are a country, we talked about LGBT, whatever your skin color is, whatever your background, your culture, your religion. We're a country that comes together, and that tie that binds us all together is our patriotism. And the left knew that. And that's why they tried to tear patriotism down. And how dare they? We're going to make Arizona, we're going to bring back pride in Arizona
I think
and this country.
the craziest thing is, for the last 5 years, we've seen a collective projection going on. Whatever they're doing, they accuse you of. I have always felt, my grandfather from Texas and the old Southern family and immigrant on the other side. I've always felt like there was this racial energy in the makeup of who I am that I've always kind of struggled to keep at bay and keep away. Because of stuff I heard when I was a kid and just, impressions of, the culture around me. And the Trump presidency connected me to people of color who were more American. And it's one of the reasons I love him so much. These stories of Guatemalans and Nigerians with their businesses,
Yeah.
and they sounded like my Greek grandfather. And they sounded
They
like
love
my
America. This is the only country where
they
you
get
can...
teary-eyed talking about the country like
Yeah.
my grandfather.
It's the most
And I'm
beautiful
like,
thing.
when is the last time I heard my Democrat friends, my leftist friends, do anything but decry while they sit back drinking a $200 glass of whiskey about how awful this place is? And I go, you hypocrite sons of bitches. It pisses me off.
True. It's the only place where miracles can happen in the form of the American dream.
It's crazy.
It's
I
amazing.
love it here.
I remember going to CPAC, and I saw so many black Trump fans. They had their Trump gear on, and
I
this was
love
after
talking
the,
to those folks when I see them at the Trump
President
rallies.
Trump did so much for Americans.
Oh,
and
it was awesome.
I don't like cutting people up and putting us in little.
They never went to the rallies, or they were dishonest. Because if you looked out, it was a colorful crowd. It was
Truly.
not a
Yeah.
bunch of pasty-looking Aryans. It
Yeah.
wasn't at
Oh,
all.
no, it's people who love this country.
Yeah.
And what's not to love? Well,
Yeah.
everything's got their warts and all of that, but I love America, everything, every wrinkle, every wart, every beautiful, beautiful thing about it. It's the greatest country in the world, and we're going to, as Trump says, make America great again.
Well, Lisa just cocked a gun outside the window, so I think I got to get you off here. Listen, Kari, I really appreciate you coming in.
It
It
was
was a pleasure
really
having
a pleasure.
you. Okay?
Your hands are warm.
You know,
Mine are freezing.
Warm hands, warm heart.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
being
much.
here.
And thank you for touring me through this amazing manufacturing facility. I want to see more of this. And I want your help because I want people who are really doing it.
I want you to come back when you're governor. If you become governor, I want you to come back and let's do a rally for you.
That would be great.
It'd be awesome.
We're doing a rally, by the way, because we have a chance here, November 2nd. It's at the Dream City West Campus
Okay.
in Glendale, and it is a 1-year marker of the botched, corrupt election. And we have some great people who are going to talk. President Trump's going to be speaking via video.
Junior's going to be there.
I don't know, is he?
Who's going to be there?
Well, no, he's not going to be there.
Who's going to be there?
Wendy Rogers, we're going to have appearances from Sonny Borelli. Some of these will be on video and some will be there.
Okay.
Sonny Borelli. I think Mike Lindell might make an
Nice. Sonny was just in last week.
Sonny's great. I love him.
We were 3 hours in. Oh, November 3rd.
November 3rd. Did I say the wrong date?
They're correcting you on the day. It's November 3rd, sports
who
fans.
could forget? Yeah, November 3rd.
Hey, so listen, let me wrap up with everybody. Is there anything else you want to plug?
That's it. Go to my website, karilake.com. We're having a Mar-a-Lago event for people who really want to go hoity-toity. Well, it's a fundraiser.
Okay.
And we are being funded by the people. So I need to do fundraising. And that's the worst part of it. I love going out and speaking to the people of Arizona because I love this state.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in. All right, sports fans, that's the deal. We're going to bring somebody in. We're going to have a real conversation across the table. It's pretty much unfiltered me as always. Thanks for stopping in. Don't forget to stop by and check us out on Spotify and on iTunes as we kind of launch and populate over there. We basically got our sea legs here on YouTube, and it's been pretty awesome. The feedback's been great. And as we jump over there, we're going to be able to kind of bifurcate from the whole knife and weapon thing and be able to maybe advertise and let a few more people know about us. So Greg Medford from The Greg Medford Show, I'm out.